All right, welcome back to PC Hoops with Coach Cooley. As always, every Sunday night we go one-on-one with the head coach, and we are pleased to be joined by Ed Cooley now as he joins us from our nation's capital after his team bounces back in the win column with a 20-point victory over the Georgetown Hoyas. And Ed, first and foremost, just as you digest the victory, what stands out to you in your mind?
I was very proud of how our guys moved the ball, shared the ball. I thought we played with a lot of excitement and energy. Coming off of a really hard environment down in stores, I was really proud of how our players responded. We didn't have a carryover of emotion, of negative emotion from our last game. We brought a lot of energy and chemistry down here to the nation's capital, and I thought our men performed at an elite level.
You ended your Wednesday press conference saying that you would challenge your kids for the 72 hours in between the UConn game to today's game. Take us behind the scenes a little bit, peel back the curtain. What was practice like, getting prepared for this one as you turn the page?
Well, after that game, you're very emotional because, you didn't play as well as you wanted to. And, it was some frustration because the ball didn't go in the basket. And I thought Connecticut had a lot to do with that. But we had our normal practice. It just was more attention to detail, a little bit more focus on our offensive synergy and chemistry. It wasn't the bark was very loud, but our players, we want to stay consistent with what we do, and our players did a really good job in the preparation in that 72-hour period. We actually took the next day off.
You mentioned in your post-game press conference you were pleased with your team's level of desperation that they showed today. Is that what you were looking for when they took the floor?
Absolutely. You're coming down here. Georgetown, great organization, hasn't had the success that they've wanted this year. It's their senior night, so you had to deal with their emotions of that. It's their last home game of the season, so you had to deal with the emotion of that. And I thought our players responded with that. Jared Bynum setting the tone, making a lot of shots early. Devin Carter, defensively, is just a machine, arguably the defensive player of the year in our league. Ed Croswell, who's been as consistent as anybody in our league, did a great job today. Bryce Hopkins didn't have his best game with the foul trouble, so it was a lot of inconsistencies throughout the game. But Clifton Moore was another big added piece today. I thought it was a great team win overall.
Yeah, let's dive in on some of those players you just touched on. Jared Bynum obviously hit 7 threes last year. What is it about when he goes home? The extra people in the crowd, maybe a little home cooking from mom there. But when he goes down to D.C., he's now hit 13 threes there the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny. It's almost like deja vu when he was shooting the ball. It just comes out of his hands well here. I thought his teammates found him early and often. And again, once you have that level of confidence and you go certain places, players just get a feel, and we went with it. And so it was really good to see him put the ball in the basket, as I thought he shot the ball well in our last game as well.
Have you noticed anything different? In those last 2 games, he's now hit 10 threes the last 2 nights and sort of have gotten himself back on the right track?
Well, our staff does a great job with our players and our player development. Those guys are in there all the time. I keep saying this a lot. Our staff is just undervalued in so many different ways for the performance of our players, putting them in position to have success. And Jared is in there every single day working on his game. So when you put time in and you put concentration in your effort and your production normally shows.
Ed Croswell flirting with a triple-double today, setting a career high with points. After just having a season-low 3-shot attempts against Connecticut, he comes back with a career day today. You've coached a ton of players in your career, Ed, but in terms of resilience and response from a guy like Ed Croswell, is he near the top of the list in terms of guys that are able to look right ahead and focus on the next game and not really get caught up in past performance?
If you rewind 3 years ago where Ed Croswell was to where Ed Croswell is today, some 3 years later, I'll go back to our staff development, player development. Jeff Battle is, very, very close to him, both Philly guys, and, they work out each other. They work with each other all the time. Brian Blaney works with our bigs as well. But it's really a tribute to his work ethic and his persistence and continue to improve. And I thought it all came together today. We're going to need him the next 2 games, particularly the next one, as we got a tough Xavier team that beat us at their place. Yet Ed, from the foul line to finishing around the rim to his physicality, his offensive rebounding, who's elite in the country. I just thought it was really good to see it all pay off today that we needed. And we definitely needed him, as Hopkins was not on his A game with respect to foul trouble.
Yeah, when Bryce goes out with those 3 early personal fouls, you use the big man lineup a little bit more than we've seen this season. Croswell as well as Clifton Moore. Clifton Moore pops a 3-ball at UConn. He follows up on the glass today, tough. He had the great sequence with the block on one end, and then he follows it home with the dunk on the other. What has he given you the last couple nights, and what was so effective about the 2 trees down low?
Well, they're both fifth-year seniors. They've been around. They played a lot of college basketball games. We've been in a lot of practices. They practice against each other and with each other every single day. So that chemistry shows up. Game activity shows up with respect to these young men have been in, they've been in war together for this whole year. And it came together, and it gave us another look that we'll have moving forward as we try to finish the regular season in a strong fashion.
All right, we're joined by the head coach right now, Ed Cooley, on PC Hoops with Coach Cooley. Just a few more for you, Ed. The first one is, what excites you most about your team right now, the position they're in at the time of year that we are in?
Most exciting thing is we're coming back home to play at the crib. That's the most important thing. We're going to play against a top-ranked team in our building. It was a really hard game at the Cintas Center. I hope we have 18,000 screaming Friar fans inside, outside. We're going to need everybody in there. And I'm excited about how far we've come this year. When you rewind it, we have 8 new players. We have 3 returning players, no returning starters. So I think our players have been resilient. Our crowds is great or better than anyone in the country when we play at home. And we're going to need all of that over these next 5 or 6 days because we have a short turnaround. We'll have 3 games in 7 days, so we're going to need the entire state behind us these next 2.
Yeah, the game in Cincinnati earlier this year went to overtime, and the 2 games last year memorable. What does it mean when it's Providence and Xavier? Why have these 2 programs always delivered the goods when they meet on the floor?
Well, it's similar styles of play. It's similar styles of coaching. They have some elite players. You look at Kobe Jones, who to me is a first-round pick. You have Nunji, who's a stretch 5. You have Boom, who's arguably one of the best players, best scoring combo guards in the country. And then, you have, Kunkel, who's been around. He's got Hunter playing at a really tough level, can really guard. I just think the styles are very, very similar, and that's what makes it such a great game.
All right, there's the head coach, Ed Cooley. After an 88-68 victory, they're home to finish out the season. It begins Wednesday night against Xavier, 6:30 tip from the Amica Mutual Pavilion. We appreciate a couple minutes, and we will be right back here on Fox Providence.